In my previous podcast on Phylomet, our pH-lowering microenema, I discussed how once the pH of our stool goes above 6.6, our microbiome shifts into a dysfunctional state, brewing toxic amines, gases, acids, and inflammatory bacteria. The farther down the colon you go, the more alkaline the stool becomes. To support the shifting of the distal colon back to a healthy acidic pH, we have to suppress the toxic neutrophilic gram-negative bacteria that thrive in and co-create a neutral or alkaline colon. To this end, I created the Phylomet microenema. However, we also need a top-down approach. The small intestines are designed to be alkaline by nature, so they are more at risk of growing these toxic and inflammatory gram-negative neutrophilic bacteria. The small intestine have multiple defenses against this, including enzymes from the pancreas, detergent bile from the gallbladder and liver, and antimicrobial substances secreted both from the small intestine and the good bacteria living there. Unfortunately, even with all of these defenses, many people have toxic bacteria growing in and creating leaks in their small intestine. As mentioned in the Phylomet video, gram-negative bacteria are very resistant to both natural and pharmaceutical antimicrobials. Nearly every antimicrobial we have access to will kill more healthy gram-positive bacteria than toxic gram-negative bacteria. This is due to their nearly impenetrable cell membranes. The result is that most antimicrobial therapies knock down both good and bad bacteria. Then the bad bacteria grow back with a vengeance, and the person can be left worse than they were before. Fortunately, there is a weakness that gram-negative bacteria have, and that is the short-chain fatty acids that the good bacteria make. Short-chain fatty acids weaken the membranes of toxic bacteria. Sometimes this is enough to kill them. But in addition, once the membranes are weakened, even if the short-chain fatty acids alone are not strong enough to kill the bad bacteria, the small intestine's own immune system now can also join in the fight, now that the bad bacteria's membrane defenses have been weakened. Here's an image of a bacteria whose cell wall has been ruptured. The issue is that once the good bacteria drop in number, they don't make enough short-chain fatty acids, and the bad bacteria are able to keep their defenses up. This is why, historically, nearly every culture around the world makes fermented foods and drinks. Diverse people around the world have all independently discovered that if you eat fermented foods, you'll be healthier. This is because fermented foods have short-chain fatty acids in them, specifically lactic and acetic acids. What fermented foods are is an outsourcing of our microbiome. There are, however, two downsides to fermented foods. First, the bacteria that are used make histamine as well as the good short-chain fatty acids. And secondly, they can also make the wrong type of lactic acid. In terms of histamine, it is the compound that causes allergic reactions. Most people think that histamine means itchy eyes or a watery nose or a skin rash, but any organ can have an allergic reaction. Arteries, brain, heart, prostate, bladder. If you want more information about how histamine can cause problems and what you might be able to do about that, you can watch our Lactimet video. In any case, more histamine in the system is never a good idea, so that's one downside of fermented foods. The second downside is the creation of a wrong type of lactic acid. This takes a little bit of explaining. Some compounds in nature are symmetrical. They don't have a right or a left-sided version. If you flip over a circle, it doesn't look any different. Other compounds are asymmetrical. In chemistry, the word for this is chiral. A chiral compound is asymmetric. It has a right and a left side. Flip your right hand over, and now the thumb is on the other side. Hands are asymmetric. They are chiral. The same is true for lactic acid. There is a right-handed form called D-lactic acid and a left-handed form called L-lactic acid. The L-lactic acid form is very helpful for our body. The D form is toxic. Small amounts of D-lactic acid can cause brain fog, and larger amounts cause neurologic damage. The liver has a limited ability to clear D-lactic acid, but if it goes too high, it will spill into the brain and cause trouble. Lots of fermented foods make both L and D-lactic acid. Streptococcus, a bacteria used in almost all yogurts, is an example of a bacteria that makes a lot of D-lactic acid. So one question is, how can we get the benefits of fermented foods, the acidic and L-lactic acid, without the histamine and D-lactic acid? Another source of bad D-lactic acid is our own good bacteria. Even good bacteria can make bad D-lactic acid as well as the good lactic acid. My theory for how and why this happens is that when our stool goes below pH of 6.5, our microbiome is in balance. Our good bacteria will make only the good L-lactic acid. But if our stool goes to a pH above 6.6 and the entire microbiome starts shifting to a toxic state, then the good bacteria make as much lactic acid as they can to lower the pH as an emergency response. In this case, they'll make both L-lactic acid, which is good for us, and D-lactic acid, which is bad for us, in an attempt to drop the pH. They use every metabolic pathway that they have to try to keep the pH low, and that means we end up with both good and bad lactic acids. So what should we do? If we raise the short-chain fatty acids in the small and large intestine, that will lower the pH. A lower pH will suppress the bad bacteria, and the good bacteria won't need to make the bad D-lactic acid because they won't find themselves in an alkaline environment. What we need is a good fermented food, one that has just L-lactic acid and acetic acid in the right proportions, in the right concentrations, with no histamine. While one day this may become available, until then I've made Lactimet. Lactimet contains 100% L-lactic acid, acetic acid, and some other supporting elements. If you're looking to support or improve your microbiome, consider adding our Lactimet product to your protocol. For more information, you can email us or call us. Take care.